Hi guys, Billy back. This is just a quick video to show you the updates on the VTS Furiosa figure that I got. I originally showed you a video where I weathered the body a little bit more, the original stock body, and I also weathered some of the clothes, some of the armor, and did a couple of bits of weathering to the metallic arm. But I've decided to do a body swap. Finally got around to putting her on a Phicen or a TB League S17B suntan body. As you can see, the chest is a little big. Now I did strap that down. I actually had that all strapped down and they were much more contained. Unfortunately, when I was putting back all the leather straps on, at some point the glue didn't take, or it just bust undone, maybe something to do with fabric, I don't know. But it busted open and, you know, the beasts were free. So unfortunately, it does have a slightly larger bust than you normally would see. Yeah, this is her now. Now, what I've basically done with the S17B body is when you get it, you'll notice that the head sculpt is probably a bit undersized for a 1/6 scale. Even especially with the original stock body here, it was actually a little big, but actually when you put it on something like one of the larger female bodies like the Phicen S23B, kind of dwarfs the head, so it looks like she has a bit of a peanut head. I've tried her on a couple of other bodies like the Ellen Ripley body, and again the neck is quite long and it's quite fat, the neck up the top, so it's very hard to actually get that head onto the neck without it looking a little bit chunky. So the S17B I got and I tried it, and it seemed to work a lot better. Now, a lot of the mods I had to do to get this body on, not massive, not a large amount. Now basically what I did was I took the head off and I took the rubber bung out of the bottom of the head, like the peg hole, and I took that out because it is sort of rubbery, so you can work it out of the head. And inside there is a small sort of lip on the inside of the head sculpt. So I just dremeled it. I just dremeled the lip around the outside a bit bigger and then pushed the rubber bung back up, and it went up a little further. So our head sits down on the neck a lot more comfortable, and then we come down and you can see the body itself. What I did there, because the suntan is a little duller than the head sculpt, it's just, even their suntan is a bit pale. So what I ended up doing was I used soft pastel. Now what you do is you grind the soft pastels. You use brown, you use white, you use yellow, you use orange, and you mix them all together. And you grind them down to a powder and mix them all together and just lightly dab all over the skin, the parts you want coloured. Like I wanted this neck area coloured. I did the arms, a little bit of the chest all the way down to there, but not all the way because none of that's going to be seen. I didn't bother with the legs. I just tested it on the legs to see what sort of colour tone would come out like. So there's little patches all over her legs about colour tone. But then you just dab it on, dab it until you finally get to a place where you think you've got a slightly darker tone. Now what can happen then is it stains the body a little bit, and that really helps to actually get this neck kind of work with the head a little bit. Now it's still a little darker, I think. Maybe I went a little bit too overboard with it, but I really can't tell, especially in this lighting. I can't tell, so I'm more than happy with it. And then of course I've put all the clothes back on. Like I said, I strapped down that chest, but they've just popped out again, so maybe I have to undo it at some point and redo it. And then the arm, because it's a metal frame body under the silicone skin on the Phicens, what I did was I scalpeled the skin around to the part that I wanted away and just exposed the metal frame, and then used a Dremel to cut through it to the point where I wanted. However, it might prove better to use some sort of metal cutting pliers or something like that to do it, simply because when I was using the Dremel, it makes the body really hot. It makes that part of the metal roasting hot while you're trying to drill through it, while you're trying to cut through it, and that can actually cause damage to the skin. There's a tiny split up the back of her arm because it was too hot and the silicone couldn't take it. So be very wary about that. If you're going to do that, maybe do it in very, very short bursts, which could take a while. Maybe have like the cold setting on a hairdryer blowing on it at the same time to try and bring the heat down as much as possible. Or, like I said, just use some hand cutters of some kind that can cut metal just to take that off. And then when it's all done, you can get this arm, because of the size of the body and everything, you can get the arm stuffed into that metallic arm fairly easily. But unfortunately, the Phicen metal frame is not a magnetic. There's a magnet just here in this part of the arm. There is a magnet, That's how it worked with this body here. This part of the metal arm is magnetic, so it used to just click in, and it was quite a good idea by VTS. But unfortunately, the Phicens don't have that feature. So what I did was I got a tiny little bit of a metal coat hanger, tiny little bit, and then I've sort of just glued that into the forearm as well. So then when you actually put all this up, it magnetizes to that tiny little bit of metal. It doesn't change anything, it doesn't change the aesthetic, it doesn't make it look bulky or anything, it doesn't do anything because it's really tiny, skinny little bit. But there's just enough there for the magnet to grip onto, and it just holds it on a little better. And then once you actually put this rubber tubing up here into the arm and up there, it holds everything in place a little better. Now then, I've actually gone and weathered everything even more, because when I go back and I look at the film, in a lot of the film, she's actually completely covered in sand and dirt. So the trousers are fine. I've finally managed to get them to a layout. Like I can't even tell you how much weathering I've done to that. There's browns, there's sand color, there's light sand, there's whites, there's just all types of shades in there. It doesn't look like much, but when you look at it from what it was originally, it is a lot better. The trousers, they were probably actually the hardest part of the figure to get on. You think it'd be all these straps, but they're just simple belts, and if you've got like some fine tweezers and a bit of patience, it doesn't take long to do that. The corset I thought would be a pain in the butt, but because I had the Catwoman from Super Mad Toys, I've gotten used to how corsets go. You know, one thread leads into the other. Takes a little while to put it all back together, but once you do, it looks absolutely fine. But the trousers were a pain in the butt to get on. You need talcum powder upon talcum powder, and even then you've still got to slowly work it up, because those thighs are quite thick, and it's very hard to get the trousers on over those thighs and get up across the butt, because she has a little bit of a bubble butt, so it's a bit of a pain in the petunias. Maybe you could just like scalpel the butt down a little bit, because I'm not being disrespectful, Charlize Theron, but in certain parts of the film I noticed she doesn't have a lot of junk in the trunk, so it's okay for you to remove some of that. But then I've weathered all the belts again. I've weathered this adornment around her waist, and there's more sand from the top. You can't see it from the bottom, but there's sand from the top, and then just to see like there's dirt settling in there rather than being knocked out. And then I've done some more sand and weathering work there, and that's the best thing you can do. Let me just find the extra kit, because I went to Hobbycraft and they had some weathering kits in the Hobbycraft, and this was the one I got, the Tamiya Weathering Master. It's really nice. You get sand, light sand and mud, and those have really worked well, because they worked great on the arm here and the chest area and this arm here, so it gave her more weathering. And I've gone down with the sand and the light sand. I'm really lighting those trousers up, because at one point she is completely covered in dust, and at one point you can't even tell that those trousers are black, because they look grey in certain bits of the movie. Okay, and here she is next to Max. Now what I've done here is I've gotten two risers. He's on one and she's on another, and hers is fractionally a little bit taller. So when you put them both together, it elevates her up a little bit, and they look more suitable to be standing next to each other. Not perfect, but it is the lesser of two evils, the best of a bad bunch, really. And I think because of the way the narrow shoulders and the smaller neck work, it fits on this head a little better, and just makes the whole thing just not look like teenage Furiosa. At least she looks like an adult now. And what I can do is I can pull up the original body next to this one and show you what it looked like together. And I'm trying to get this all into frame together. This is how she stood normally, I think. That's where the peg sits, right in the bottom there. That makes much more of a difference, doesn't it, height-wise? Kind of fits a little better, I think, anyway. And everything seems to work as it should. And because the bust isn't humongous, as you can see, that even the bust was still a little bit like the same size-ish. So it's not too bad. I was going to use leg extenders, but unfortunately when I did put the extender pegs in, didn't fully fit the actual joints on the Phicen. They were a little bit big, so they rattled around in there a little bit, and also it really stretched those legs up just a little bit more, and it just made her look really out of proportion. And here you can see she just stands just over 11 inches which is a lot better than the 10 inches or just below 10 inches as she was on the stock body. But that's it, yeah, guys. Phicen S17B body on the Furiosa VTS Wasteland Ranger figure. I'm very happy with it now. She's going to go next to Max and they're going to look great. Okay, that's it, guys. Thanks a lot. If you could do me a favour now, if you just get the fuck out of my cave, I'm just going to go and enjoy my figures. Thanks a lot, guys. Bye.